Gaat hij het doen? Ja. Mooi. Als jullie denken, wat heeft hij voor een waanzinnige Michael Knight horloge om, dat schijnt hij te horen. Kijk, volgt die camera. Doet hij het ook? Nou, valt een beetje tegen eigenlijk. Hij zou me moeten volgen, maar voor mij moet ik toch gewoon hier blijven staan. Nou, dan weten jullie in ieder geval waarom ik het ding in ieder geval voor de vorm om heb. Oh, ja. Of je steekt stopt de stekker erin, hè? Dat is al data sinds 1980. Oké, nog een keer. Ja, oh nee, dan gaat hij helemaal daarheen. Kom hier. Oh, hij komt mij nu zoeken. Nou, vooruit. Mensen van de livestream, jongens. Als het niet zichtbaar ben, dan is het de technologie die me in de steek laat. Data Donderdag, een stukje over data en storytelling. Vooral eigenlijk over storytelling en sport. Want dat is waar wij met Týrsday goed in zijn. En wat ik al een jaar of 15, nou ja, als je Eurosport-tijd meeneemt, al een jaar of 20. Ik zie een collega van Eurosport van vroeger zitten daar vandaar. Al doe. Dus kort wat over mij dan. Gijsbregt, ja. Mijn sport stond gek genoeg niet in de top 5. Ik snap daar helemaal niks van. Ik ben namelijk, ik durf nooit te zeggen topsporter geweest, want dat was altijd een beetje tobben. Maar wel een jaar of 10 van mijn leven opgegeven om in ieder geval een van de beste langlaufers van de wereld te worden. Veel verder dan de beste van Nederland en soms de beste van alle landen waar geen sneeuw ligt, ben ik niet gekomen. Maar meedoen aan ik heb een tijdje in Noorwegen gewoond, een tijdje in Oostenrijk gewoond. En dan met de echte jongens meedoen, zeg maar. Noorwegen was 1 keer zover. Toen werd ik 48ste bij een wedstrijd. En dan was ik echt denk, nou, ik had echt een goede wedstrijd gedaan vandaag. Er woonden alleen maar Noorden daar. Werd ik 48ste. En toen kwamen al die jongens naar me toe dat ik echt heel goed gedaan had. Dus ik denk, nou, ze nemen een maling. Nee, want ik stond, dat was nog tijd van papier, op de eerste pagina van de uitslagenlijst. En dan had je het in Noorwegen goed gedaan als langlaufer. Dus dan, nou ja, dat is even over mij. Dus ik denk dat langlaufen in Noorwegen nog erger is dan schaatsen in Nederland. Want er zijn nog meer mensen die het doen namelijk. Týrsday vertel ik zo wat meer over. Dus van langlaufer ben ik eigenlijk gerold. Eerst via een klein tussenstukje consultancy, wat toch niet helemaal voor mij was. In vooral heel veel in de sport doen. En ik ben een van de eerste in Nederland die sport en alles wat met digitaal te maken heeft omarmd heeft. In het begin betekende het dat ik net zoveel van apps wist als van data, als van storytelling, als van social media. Want er was gewoon niemand die daar iets van wist. En langzaam maar zeker is dat eigenlijk deze kant uitgegaan. En hebben wij, Matthijs van Albe en ik, Týrsday opgericht. Waarbij wij eigenlijk zeggen, we zijn een tech-driven content agency. En als je dat dan een beetje in een pitch zou moeten hangen, dan zeggen we help brands, people and businesses turn interest into business through online storytelling. Nou, dan voel je al gelijk. Dat doen we, hier kun je nog even, Tyr. Iedereen wil altijd weten waarom we Týrsday heten. Tyr was de Scandinavische god van de overwinning. Dus een kleine knipoog naar Nike. En omdat we niet in het verleden willen blijven hangen, ook wel D. We werken elke dag voor je of dagelijks bezig zijn. Dit kan je gewoon prima op onze website kijken. Dit vind ik wel even leuk om te vertellen. Wij hebben wel, want er komt een stukje data komt wel terug. Wij hebben het idee dat in deze tijd van eigenlijk waar alles versnipperd is, alles kapot is. Oh, was er trouwens iemand die in het Engels wilde hebben? Ik ben heel leuk in het Nederlands begonnen.
Yes, I asked for it.
Okay.
He's from Korea.
Okay, so I can try Korean now. Komt niet verder dan kimchi. Well, this is in English. No, I hope you don't mind that you missed out that I was tried to be a cross-country skier in my youth, and that I now started a company with Matthijs van Abbe 4 years ago, which is called Týrsday. And the whole idea behind Týrsday is that we tell stories to connect people in different places and different times, but try to hold them and follow them, and in the end, get them into the funnel. And this is the ambitions that companies have, which we always ask them to state for us, and we will help them with finding these ambitions and which target groups there. And then we try to set as many different messages and different moments, and all these messages and moments will reach the people. And in the end, sort of all the dots will make a clear line, and we'll make sure that the story you want to convey or an ambition you want to reach will actually be reached. Well, there's a lot of things I'm going to tell you a little bit more about, because we believe in strategy. There's a lot of, well, you guys are all data-driven, data people, so actually do believe in strategy and you do believe in letting the numbers speak, but we are basically from the world of advertising agencies, and advertising agencies, they believe just in, in good feeling, gut feeling, creativity, and I love all these things, let me be clear, but they don't believe so much in strategy, and a lot of our clients don't believe in strategy. So we want to try to teach them a winning strategy, and a winning strategy has an important part in the beginning, is that you want to be the owner of what you do. So of course you want to stay close to people that will help you reach other people, like this guy, but you always have to be careful what you give to him, because in the end it might bite in your own tail. We start our strategy always with an outside in, so we do which is basically a data research, or we call it a digital market scan, but we look around for our clients. Who are the people talking about the subjects you want to be found in or you want to be bigger in, and what are the actual topics they are talking about. So people and messages, because we think that's the whole thing communication is about. Who are the people talking, who are the messages that are being talked about. We try to plot this into either a tag cloud or another form of to present it to our clients. So that's what we bring in to our clients. The other way around, we will ask our clients, what do you have to bring in for us? Which means ambitions, mission statements, stuff like that. But also we want to reach these and these kind of people, or we want to get extra sales, or we want to get a brand that is more familiar than another brand. Or this is very much about ambitions, about target groups, about what we want to reach in the short moments, sort of low-hanging fruits, what we want to reach in 1 or 2 years, and what we want to reach in the end, after 5 years working together, because that's kind of scope we believe in. What we try to deliver then is a solid strategy that's basically about stories and storylines. And storylines is sort of a vehicle we developed ourselves. And basically, if you remember the client nurturing, where I said every story or every piece of content is a dot, and the line through all these dots is the storyline. Well, we try to devise these storylines so that all the messages that will hang like an umbrella below it will actually be part of the storyline. And usually we work with 2 or 3 storylines. It's a long story, but it really works. You make sure that you tell something that you actually want to, that actually in the end will reach your target audience, even maybe not in a week or 2 weeks, but after a year, you have reached them so many times that actually something will have happened in their brains. And it makes sure, that's really helpful as well, you do the things right, but you also know what you shouldn't be doing, or where you shouldn't be talking about, because there's lots of, especially if you devise a website and you open up some channels, everybody wants to be part of this. I've worked for the biggest banks. I've worked for the KNVB, for example, biggest sports federations. And as soon as you're popular, as soon as you start reaching people, everybody joins in and wants to be part of the movement. And we use these storylines to actually stay in the line where we strategically have chosen for. Manual on the planning strategy is basically about storylines, ambitions, and how we work. And the manual is, in Dutch you would say something like a redactiestatuut, or a sort of editorial manifesto, What kind of content do we make? I'll come back to that later. And the planning, of course, this is your daily operations, your basics. This is the most important, because if you want to have these dots, you want to make sure that they connect, you actually need to stick to your planning. And of course, all these things are not set in stone. They're actually sort of fluent, because we monitor, we use feedback loops, we try to get better. If it works for example, does it work on a certain time? Does it work better? Types of content, do they work better? I'll come back to that, because that can be quite exciting as well. And we trust in tech. We build our own tech. This is called Tag the Love. I'm not going to say too much about it, but this is sort of the technology that makes it very easy possible to set out all the messages at the times that you think are necessary, and to make the kind of content you really want to make very easily. Because not all content is created equal, we sort of use this very lame matrix, but it helps to show you, because I do have a... Yes. High impact, low cost. Well, dat klopt. Ja, klopt. Dus, oh nee, here should be low impact, low cost. See, it's not even a good matrix. Low impact, low cost. That is if you take a picture with your iPhone, you post it, you put it on your website, you post to different social media. If you're really quick, 10 seconds work. If you're at a good place, you know. So maybe, well, if you do this for a client, we will, and you will do it every day, maybe we will charge 5 minutes or 10 minutes for content like that. You know, if you do the high impact, high cost, I will show some examples later, but for example, a nice blog, we do an interview with different people, we send a photographer over, we make sure that everybody has heard, that all the quotes are okay, and it's maybe 6 hours work, something like that. So then we will charge, I don't know, 600 euros or 500 euros. So there's difference of almost 100 euros between those. And if you go out and you want to make viral, and you get a good team around, and you get a video made, and 25,000 euros, maybe even more. So you feel the difference. There's something, a piece of content that's 5 or 10 euros, and there's pieces of content that will cost. And if you go out and make a Disney movie, it's 200 million euros, of course. But in the reach of our clients, the highest is usually 50,000, 100,000 euros. Can you imagine if you would not use 100,000 euros, but would use 10,000 times 10 euros, what would be the impact of that? So we try to make a sort of a solid construction where all these different types of content, usually we only use the low impact. We try to get, of course, low impact, low cost to be a little bit higher, you know, make it better, but usually it means low impact if it's low cost. And we try to make sure that the high impact or the high cost ones actually get high impact as well. So, snackable content, in this case literally, this is just a picture of a hamburger. We work for a hamburger chain, and they make sure that they want to show off how good their hamburgers are. Well, best way to do is to show the hamburgers in a way that you actually, you know, sort of mouth-watering. You could do the long form, you know, more of the high cost, high impact kind of content. This is the two guys who actually, the one is making the buns, the sandwiches for the burgers, which are really special, and the other guy is this chef, so he knows really how to make the different meats and all the sauces and everything. So they explain for hours and hours how they actually make it was supposed to be the world champion hamburger, but they didn't make it to the cut. Well, you can actually remix some content, so content that already other people made. You put it on your website and you give it a second life by adding some extra information, or just by finding it and sharing it to your audience, because they would have never seen this. And of course, there is the sort of in-between content, not long form, not remix, which you actually could say borrowed or stolen, or, well, usually we do it official way. Not the cheap content, but something in between where you would, you know, write a quick blog, maybe an hour work, something like that. And we try to sort of manipulate all these different types of content, put them at the right moment, and make sure that they, and that's important, that they will empower each other, enforce each other. Because even if people who see the hamburger and are triggered by the hamburger, we will bring them to our platform, to our website, and on the website they will see the whole story about the two chefs, or the chef and the baker, actually preparing the hamburger, and or how they devised the hamburger and how they developed the hamburger. So actually that enforces each other and makes sure that people will be longer in your own atmosphere, longer in your own influence, and that they will actually start to learn and appreciate your brand, or whatever other type of organization you are. Well, since we are in the data business, I wanted to discuss at least some results. What's interesting is that the way we define results depends a lot on the ambitions of our clients, of course. So some of them, they just want, well, we don't use the word clicks anymore, want views, they want uniques, they want sessions, they want stuff like that. But the others say, no, we want conversions, you know. We want to sell lots in the lottery, or we want to sell shoes, or we want to have footfall in the shop, or we would actually want to have more members of our club. You know, we work for, here on the other end of the street, for Vondel Gym, is one of our clients, together with Arie Boomsma. We actually, did I put him in as an example? No, I didn't. No, so I can tell this story. So actually, what he wanted to do was reach the people in Amsterdam and make sure they started to join the club. This was the second club, opened 2 years after the first club, was 3 times as big. So I think we actually succeeded. It was of course not only our fault. It helps if you have, you know, people like Takama and Adi Boomsma doing the fitness classes. But it was literally not about those guys. The whole content strategy we devised was to make a lot of other types of content, like workout of the days, like food for the day, like the whole sharing the schedules, stuff like that. And in the end, of course, there was also a lot of there was the room and the channels of the ambassadors, like all the trainers, and like Adi Boomsma, that would help people reach the people and make sure they would get to know that Vondel Gym even existed and it looked cool. And then once they were on the website, they could actually convert to being a member. Long story short, or short story long. Rabobank, we used to work for them almost 10 years, and we're actually still working for them now. At this point, we're actually working for them to getting more people with a handicap to get them doing sports as well. So this is something different than in the early days. We just wanted to make sure that instead of 93.9% of the people would love the Rabobank brand, we would try to make 94.1% of that. You know, that was the type of briefings we would get in the early days, and after all the disasters with recycling, then they changed a little bit in how they would define their ambitions. We worked for 2 different. I show of 2 different kind of events. We worked for the Olympic Games 2016 and the World Championships hockey in 2014. 2014 was really cool because it was the first time we actually had an in-venue content team there. So we took out the girl, you know, you saw with the on her head, you know, with the prize on her head. She was actually part of our content team. She's now part of Orange, the Dutch ladies, but she was in school back then and not good enough for playing at the Worlds in 2014. So she was part of our team, and actually we did almost for in the whole build-up to the World Championships and even afterwards, but especially during the World Championships, we almost had a full time. No, not at night, but all of the day we had the content team over there. I was there personally, and I had a guy who used to be an intern of mine who already did a lot of experience in Australia at both tennis championships there. So and one of my clients was in there, and we actually we had this planning that I usually make for a week. Was a planning for a morning there, you know, like almost 8 different types of content from the bleachers to the backstage to the field to the media room, everywhere we would be, and it's an sort of infographic, but they did it in the traditional infographic way, which meant that it was this long, so it's very bad for presentations. But you can see at least some of the results we got, which were uncalled for in that year. It was the first time actually these kind of results were, especially with hockey, which is still. It was the same year that Holland was in Brazil, you know, almost winning the World Championship. So we did almost the same as Heineken did around that World Championship. The other one I will tell another one. You can ask me during the break later. Small one, actually building brands, you know, in rugby, because rugby ladies 7 was almost as famous as cross-country skiing before this team was conceived, and now and after it, you know, they didn't make the Olympics, so then it went down again. But in this whole upward period, we make sure that all the ladies would actually share their content, that the sponsor would share their content, and that and this is one, I'm not sure if Robert is going to say something about this. It was actually one of the situations where in sort of under duress, it looked like that they were not going to make it to the Olympic Games, so they changed coaches, which is not really something they do easily at the Dutch Rugby Union because there's no money for anything. So kicking out the coach and bringing another one in is not like football where you can just, you know, there's a sheikh bringing on the money all the time. You have to find a way to pay for the guy leaving, you know. And this new guy, he was completely against, you know, these girls sharing all this content. So we've been working for 1.5 years with the girls, teaching them everything, making sure that they would actually share the right content, share it at the right moments, share the right type of content, that they would come to us, share the content with us, or share directly themselves. We had really good grades, and then at that moment it was January or February 2016, so only 2015, because they were already lost it in 2015. So and he started to use me like, no, we're not going to use social media. Social media is bad for team spirit. And I was there standing like this, explaining to other girls that we're going to do this next 2 months. You know, it's like, okay, I think I'm being sacrificed here. You know, this is sports as well. It's not only about the numbers. It's very much about emotions as well. Holland Heinekenhuis during the 2012 Olympics. We did 1 million page views just around all the content which we actually did in the Heinekenhuis. This was really interesting because it wasn't, the results here were very much about finding the communities, finding the digital communities. So biathlon is sort of like cross-country skiing, but it's maybe a little bit more famous at this moment. But it's a really small sport because not everybody gets to have a gun. So you would say you would actually know where people are who are involved with the sports, but it has been growing so rapidly the last time, and they were always the best media sport of the winter sports. But suddenly, due to digitalization, they completely lost it. So we did a research for them. Where are the places that people are actually talking about biathlon online? Who are the people sharing content? And we sort of stripped it down to venues, races, athletes, clubs, and federations and sponsors, probably like that. And we plotted that all over the world, and we found, you know, if you get along, for example, everybody knew that the German federation was huge, but the Russian federation was much huger, much more impact. You know, this kind of information is what we dredged up from the internet, shared it with the International Biathlon Union, and they started to devise their digital strategy on the basis of that. World 11 was just interesting to, what we did here was, we wanted to, there's this sort of FIFA FIFPro thing where the best team of the world is being voted. And what they did in the past always was, they would say, okay, Ronaldo is on the team, and then Ronaldo, or probably his manager, would retweet it. But they never did this again anymore, because they suddenly were very commercial. There's all these athletes, they had commercial teams around them, saying, no, we're not going to retweet FIFPro, we're not going to retweet FIFA, unless they pay us. So suddenly, their reach just fall down. So next year they hired us, and we said, we're not going to ask these athletes to retweet us or to share it on Facebook or like it on Instagram. We're going to talk to all the fan clubs, because all these guys, they have literally fan clubs all over the world. So especially if you have Ronaldo, there's probably 200, 300 fan clubs with more than 100,000, 200,000 likes on Facebook. So we all sort of collected these, and we started to approach them. And so it was quite laboriously, but it was an interesting one. We started to talk to them through to DMs and PMs, and sometimes one of the fan clubs would retweet it, then the athlete would retweet it as well, because then suddenly it wasn't so commercially and dangerous anymore. So that was some of the research and the work we did for World 11. Bavaria, on the other hand, was straightforward. We had a team, 4 athletes, nobody ever heard of them. A bit in line with the Ladies 7 kind of concept, and we just started to teach them how to share content. We made content ourselves, and the team made content, so there was sort of 3 different sources, and we started to push it. And you can see the first big one, of course, was when we launched the website, and there was a lot of, also press and media involved, but there were a lot of different ones. And the most interesting part was, something you learn in a year, we had perfect content. You know, we made content every day. It was good. But these 2 highest peaks were, and that's what we learned in the world of equestrian, were moments. One of them was where a horse fell into the water. So they were driving, because this is military. So one of the horses fell into the water. So there was a really sad picture of a horse in the water and had to be dredged out. And the other one was, it was even worse, where a horse broke his jawbones, and these were the biggest ones, and these were literally pictures of maybe 20 seconds work, maybe 2 minutes work. So this is just to show that you can plan for everything, but if you make sure that everything's organized well, you will at least get the highs when they're out there. Okay, well, that if you do your stuff right online, then the media will follow. If you have any questions, I think I have 30 seconds for questions. One question. Have I been so unclear or so clear? Ah.
Yeah, very interesting. So I was just wondering, how do you reevaluate your strategy if you're going to have a planning for the next year, and maybe after 3 months you notice, okay, it's not really working well. How do you evaluate if it's working well, and how do you adjust for that?
That's a very good question, because literally we can see almost real time how well content is performing. And in the system, the tech I showed you, you can actually see how well the content is behaving. But for a lot of our clients, this is too complicated. So they don't want to be bothered, especially in sports. They don't want to be bothered. They want to be taken care of. They want to be they make sure that they don't have to worry about what they're doing. So what we usually do is a very simple way. We send monthly reports, and there we do advices. Okay, more of this content, less of that content, more on Monday, less on Friday, and then it's not strategy, but it's tactical or almost operational improvements. And if we see after 2 or 3 months that one of the 3 storylines is not working at all, and there's a lot of different possibilities why it's not working, because sometimes it's just that the athlete doesn't want to share certain stuff, or that there is no content in the whole idea. We thought there would be content. Then we just skip it and we devise a new one.
Awesome. Gijsbregt, thank you very much.
Yeah, ready? Right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Robert. I'm the founder and managing director of Remiqz. And I think a lot already has been said about how you can use data in storytelling and how it works in sports. And I can only add to this story of Gijsbregt in how we provide data for especially sporting directors and how they can make decisions about their players, about their salaries, about their contracts, etc. And that's all something which come back during my story. Before I start, I just give you a bit of insight in how we started this whole idea about how we started this business. Because mainly it was already 10 years ago when I started doing and with my own Excel files, I tried to figure out what is the best formation of my own amateur team. Because my soccer skills were not that perfect. I was basically kind of lame in soccer, but I was always interested in statistics. How can I make something valuable out of data? And years later, I met Peter Nieuwhuis. He is the one on the right, standing there. And he is the owner of Hypercube. And Hypercube developed a Euro club index, which provides clubs with a kind of information about how they're doing relative in Europe. And this was the starting point of Remiqz, in which we thought, if we can make a measurement for clubs, can we also do this for teams and for players itself? And that's why Remiqz was started. And you see here, this is our team right now. And I already saw some companies asking for employees, but we are growing rapidly. We started in November 2016, and for half a year I was all by myself. But now, this week, our 10th employee started, and we're still looking for people who have interest in sports, people who are interested in football, but also are able to translate all the difficult algorithms and data into something presentable for our clients. Because where we live in, and I give you a broad overview about the football industry, and this is basically the figures of last season and this season. And you can see here that for over 7 billion euros was spent during the previous season, and it increased by almost 5 to 10% year on year. And this is growing massive. If you see what the English clubs are earning, they go over 1 billion by themselves in the next years that will come. And especially the big clubs like City and Manchester United, for these guys it's insane. And it's not only, again, the stadium where the people come to see the matches, but it's more and more about the whole environment which is there in Asia. Manchester United, the fan club itself, it's bigger in Asia than it is in Europe or America. And that's also where the potential lies when we come to the on-pitch and off-pitch valuation. And that's where I already had a good discussion with Gijsbregt. How can players be evaluated? Not only what they perform on pitch, but also how much effort and how much value they have next to the pitch. Because in the end, the whole industry is, like I said, it's 2% of the world economy, but it's more than 80% of the emotional value of people. Everybody here, they know football. Everybody here knows what's happening. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody is a coach of every team. Everybody has ideas about how to make a decision. And all these opinions, all these different kind of interests, they come together in the decision making. Because picture yourself as Edwin van der Sar. You want to be the champion at the end of next season. What are you going to do? You read the newspapers. You see what's happening to certain players. You see what's written about it. People have nicknames, and it all has a certain impact on your decision making. And that's where Remiqz is coming in. We provide them with certain objective measurement to see how good is a player, what is the value of a player, what are the costs of a player, what is his transfer value, and in the end to make sure that you have a good insights in the return of investment. And also to diminish these kind of people in the football industry. You see here my best friend Mino Raiola, and he earned for over 40, 50 million based on this transfer of Paul Pogba of almost 2 years ago. And he is doing this because he has found a way into the market, into the industry, to make use of the disbalance in knowledge between clubs, but also players. He knows a way how to manipulate, how to treat the people, how to plug people with clubs, and to make a good living out of it. And this is exactly the reason. What you see here now on screen is just a random picture of coaches, just a random picture of scouts in Europe, in Netherlands, who just standing next to the field and just making notes. And they have no picture about what's happening on the other pitches. They have no idea what happened the game before. And if you think this is only for Dutch clubs, no, this is also happening for clubs as Manchester City. I spoke to the head coach, the European head coach, and he's also standing next to the pitch, just doing this, making notes. And based on this, decisions are made. And that's, for me, as a people who likes data, who loves statistics, for me it's unbelievable that this is still happening. So this is how we do it. This is one of the offices we have in Nieuwegein, where all the data is collected. And you see here, it's as big as this whole area here, where just students are there every night, every single night. They just tap in every event that's happening on the pitch during a game. So every pass is given, every corner, every foul, every meter that is run, it's in our system, and we collect them, and we make there some sort of valuable insights for clubs. And that's one of our unique methods how we handle football, because there are always factors, always events happening on-site or off-site the pitch that has an influence on the outcome of the game. So therefore we try to figure out both the top-down approach, in which we first look at what is the club is doing, what is the prediction, how and what did someone contribute to the outcome of the game, but also looking upwards. So we say, okay, what are the technical abilities? Our partner Ortec, they measure from a coordinate XY, they pass a ball to coordinate XY with a certain speed and certain height of the ball. These guys are even more detailed in the data they provide to us. And we put it in our systems. We therefore made a platform in which you can plug in every data source you have about players, about games, and about training. But also, and this is the relation with Gijsbregt, the off-pitch valuation. We found a partner who has an algorithm about what is the player worth off-pitch. And to give you some ideas, if you look at Ziyech from Ajax, he is worth 2.5 million off-pitch. So every tweet he's sending, every message he sent by social media, it has this value. And that's also what we use now during negotiations with clubs, but also to give them an idea if they have to choose between two players, this could be one of the ideas or one of the factors that help them to choose for a certain player. Because if you want to grow as a club, if you want to create additional revenue, then take a player that has a better reach or a reach in an area which you're not present at the moment. And furthermore, it's GPS data about Johan Sport, and action type is about mentality. And it basically put every player in a box. There are 16 boxes, and from there you can derive what the player, where he should be on the pitch, but also if you have all of them in your team, because you need a certain balance to create the best outcome. So as you might all have seen or known, this is the book Moneyball. It's also a movie made out of it. But for us, it's already history. So if we talk to them, we always say this is Moneyball 2.0, because it's different. It's a holistic platform in which all different areas, all different types of data are combined. So this is basically, we are the objective right hand of nearly almost all clubs in which we help and make sure that they at least become a bit more smarter than competitors and make the right decisions. So this is how it, basically, if you, this is why we're here today. It's not only talk about where we're coming from, but also the practical point of view. And this is what we made last weekend. So you see here, we have a plate was game between PEC Zwolle and Sparta Rotterdam. And there, based on our data, we predicted, you see in the two columns, you see what we predicted before the game. And you also see next to it what the result was. So in fact, we can, in a very accurate way, we can see what will happen during this game. So we take into account all the 11 players which we are predicted to be on pitch. We measure them, we calculate what their physical data is, what their statistical data is, and we see how it works during the game. So you can also see that in this case we predicted a 2-1, but unfortunately it became 2-0. And if you look back at the matches, you see that Sparta Rotterdam indeed had 2 or 3 possibilities to score a goal, but in the end it's always statistics, so we have a certain estimation and not a real prediction, and it helps us as well. We made the Remiqz pension fund, in which our employees, they put in some 10 to 20 euros each month, and we play against the betting system like Unibet, etc. And we're doing quite good, I must say. But it's not a core business, but it's really fun to do it, and also to trigger all my employees to make sure that we continuously beat the odds. Well, another one we did at the beginning of the season, and it's quite a big story we put online. But basically you can see that we predicted which teams are going to fight against relegation. And if we look at now, it's exactly the teams that we predicted. And there's not something like, we did a great job, but it gives you a feeling what we can contribute to the market, what our added value is for clubs. Because we can say, and we know already for next season, based on the current selections, what the outcome might be. And this is also how we predict the whole total economic cycle. So we say, if you change something in your squad, if you do something with your formation, if you change the head coach, as Gijsbregt already mentioned, then something will happen. And we predict it with a certain accuracy, and it also says what the financial impact will be. So this is how we come also to what is the value of a player. And the value is determined on what is it worth for your team, but also what is it worth for the team of which you want to buy the player. So here we see an example of Feyenoord, because their midfield is a bit weakened this season, and with El Amadi is getting older and older, he will probably not play every match next season. So we help Feyenoord and we search for them, and this is the tool that we provide to clubs. And you can see, okay, these are the names that might be interesting for Feyenoord based on all the data we have in our system. And if you look and you calculate and you put these players into the team for next season and you simulate what might happen, then you see that Ryan Thomas of PEC Zwolle would be the best buy at that moment. Because his transfer value is low, his salary is quite low, but he will have an added value to the team. But we also do it the other way around. We're also working with player agents, we're working with players to see, okay, if you want to make a transfer, to which country or to which team you need to go to make sure that it fulfill most of your needs. So here you see we do it on the club. How is the club performing? How are the competitors on your position that you play? What is the salary you're going to earn over there? What are the championship, etc., etc. And this is what we provide. So they can just basically say, okay, this is important to me, this is less important, and to make a certain decision where they will grow and where they will have a valuable new path in their career. Some success stories, it's always good to tell. First of all, you see the dotted line. This is where we came into these clubs. And we see that with PEC Zwolle, we are helping both the general manager and the sporting director with their decisions, optimizing their squad, optimizing their selection, giving insights about their competitors. And you see that basically they were quite doing not really so good the last seasons, but now they are increasing, and this is basically called the Euro Club Index. I'm not going to tell you everything about it, but this is a measurement how they perform. And you see NSA, who came in quite late, but now we're helping them to build up their team for next season, because all the odds indicate that they will become the champion at the end of the season and will have a promotion to the Eredivisie. And also for Telstar, we help them to just at least rise up and go for playoffs at the end of the season. And with all of them, we come together 3-4 times a week, because they need to interpret the data. We cannot do it for them. Their expertise, their insights, their knowledge about the club is also very valuable for us, but also to make the right decision. So their decisions are not purely based on our data, but it helps them to give an idea about what's happening. So this is my story about Remiqz. If there are any questions, please rise. Sure.
Question, I'm not sure how to say it in English, but I'm going to try. Do like clubs like buy you out in the sense that if Barcelona wants to use your software, that they say, okay, you can't sell it to Real Madrid because I don't want, as Barcelona, that Real Madrid has the same software and then be more competitive. Does that also happen?
It happens, but in the end, my reaction is always that you as a club, you fight not only against your neighbor, or in this case Real Madrid, but you also fight as Spanish clubs against other European clubs. And in fact, as a football industry, you fight against Formula One, against cycling. So it's also a way of, you compete, but you also have to help each other. And we use a kind of a standard for ourselves that we are not providing our data and insights to more than 50% of a league. But it's also because we want to make sure that we can show our stories as well. And otherwise, indeed, everybody has the same information, and then it becomes a bit difficult as well to be unique or to do it a different way. True.
The incredible amount of 200 million euros voor een speler als van Barcelona naar Frankrijk is gegaan.
Neymar.
222. Yeah, can you explain what it exists, the whole package? It's for me an incredible amount of money.
Yeah, well, that's part of what I try to say with the holistic platform. In case of Neymar, it was more about, or a large part was also about the off-pitch valuation. In case of Neymar, first of all, he had an option in his contract in which he could only be bought for more than 200 million euros. So that's already something which you need to know before, because otherwise it doesn't make sense. But the country Qatar, they in fact bought him. So they provided the money to Paris Saint-Germain, so they had the money to buy him out. And so it's not only about his sporting performance, because in case of Neymar, I know by heart that the odds of Paris Saint-Germain to become the champion of the Ligue 1 increased by 7.2%. So that's not really a lot. But they also had some odds to become some rounds in the Champions League. So there's also some revenues. So that's also the things we take into account. But the large part of this deal was because he is going to be the ambassador of the European or the World Cup in 2020 in Qatar. So he's going to be a spokesman, ambassador, and that's one of the reasons why they also bought him for this money.
any use already for coaching data, coaching related data for the economic valuation, for example?
My guys are working really hard to insert the actual impact of a certain coach. What we already do is advise clubs to basically get rid of their current coach. So if you do a certain amount of, if you're underperforming at a certain amount, then you become, as we say it, in the red zone, and then you basically need to be fired, because according to the data and according to the research, that in 80% of the time, if you fire a coach at that stage, performance will go up.
Okay, but then you're looking at results, not at his behavior as a coach, for example.
We take into account indeed, if a coach has a tendency or a preference to play attack or a certain formation. That's what we take into account, but not seriously the way if he's a leader or the way he approaches people. That's not what we take into account yet.
Final question?
So when you're predicting the outcomes of a match, for example, it was PEC vs NEC or whatever.
PEC Sparta. Yeah.
Sparta. So is this just a bunch of regressions on variables, or are you actually doing some kind of simulation of games? Or is this something you kind of disclose?
Yeah, I have to be honest that this is not my field of expertise. So I'm not an econometrist. So I have a lot of smart guys. I'm just the spokesman. I have a brain behind me who is doing all these kind of things. But this is basically the result of the work they do. So I cannot tell you what kind of analysis or the things they do for this. Sorry.
Thanks, Robert.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll take a